What did you think of the peanut butter yesterday?
Did you do something special?
No, just peanuts.
Just
I
peanuts.
love homemade peanut butter.
I know. It's definitely something we eat a lot of very quickly. So you go
Yes,
through a ball jar in what, 3 days?
yes. Pounds of peanuts a week.
But you just throw the peanuts in the food processor
Yeah,
and you're done.
yeah.
So,
And probably cheaper than the store peanut bought. Probably better than any peanut butter that we ever tried it. So,
yeah,
highly
it's
recommended.
it's interesting. I remember I first started eating peanut butter with Jif, which is what I
Right.
had to have. I had to have Jif. It's the only taste that I enjoyed.
And
And
then,
then I tried like multiple natural peanut butters, and there's all that oil at the top, and
uh,
it just would be like really pasty. So I just said stick to Jif, and then I realized how many chemicals are in Jif,
yes,
which is crazy. And then we switched to one of the natural options that I enjoy, which is I think what was it called?
Justin's.
Justin's. Justin's is really good as a transition. We got hooked on that, and then I went back to Jif, and it tasted like a bottle of chemicals.
Yes,
So weird. Even
yes.
now, if I taste it, I all I taste is like something else.
It doesn't taste the same. It doesn't taste like peanuts.
Yeah,
Not like the ones that we make at home, at least.
right. And then we were like, let's just try to make our own peanut butter, which was a lot more simple than we thought it would be. And now I can't even eat Justin's because it tastes like there's chemicals in Justin's.
Welcome back to another episode of relationspod.
Welcome back.
We are
What?
not giving recipes today, and we're talking about something completely different. Heard of
Something
them.
different. What are we talking about?
Well, today actually we're talking about hometowns and our relationships with the city that we came from.
Oh my goodness. This is a heavy topic. I still live in the city that I came from. You live in the city with me.
And I live thousands of miles from the city that I was born and raised. So we have very different perspectives of the same
Right.
matter.
Yeah, so let's dive in and talk about our hometowns.
Well, first and foremost, let's start with you.
Okay.
We're near your city. We're
Yep.
actually right here,
Yep.
right now,
Yep.
Jacksonville, Florida.
Born and raised. Yeah, I grew up here in a very different side of town. For those who don't know, Jacksonville is one of the largest cities
It is
land-wise.
the largest city
Yeah,
in America, if
for
you don't
sure.
know.
Yeah, so it's very spread out too. So there's a lot of highway systems and things like that. So you can get pretty much anywhere in about 30 minutes. But as you know, if you're on a major highway going north in Jacksonville, you're going to be on that highway still in Jacksonville for at least 30 minutes, which is kind of crazy. But yeah, I grew up in an area of town called Arlington. I really spent almost all of my time there. It was funny. My grandma lived across the river on the north side, and going there was like a thing. It was like, if we're going to Nanny's house, it's going to be like a whole production. We're going to be there all day, maybe even spend the night, even though it was, 20, 30-minute drive. But we really, created this bubble where I grew up and kind of knew everybody, all of our neighbors. I hung out with the same people all the time. And so it created this little insulated kind of bubble. I felt like I was
Yeah,
in a little town in a big city, so to speak.
yeah.
And that's kind of where you grew up, right? More of a little town.
Yeah, very similar. I think my city is not as big as Jacksonville and not as populated as Jacksonville, but it's not a small town. Everyone knows everyone. Everyone talks about everyone. So, we have 300,000 people, I think.
Wow.
And so, see, it's not
Not small,
small, but
right?
also it's not a huge city. So,
Yeah.
it's easy to,
See the same people everywhere.
yes, you know exactly who they are, who they hang out with,
Right.
and your family knows their parents. So,
Mhm.
it's the kind of place that you don't want to do anything that will make people talk about you.
Yeah, and in the Latin culture too, I think
Yes.
people are much more social, and so it's a
Yes.
lot about that community, talking
Yes.
about your friends and family.
Yes.
It's not always such a negative thing.
Yes.
We may call it gossiping, but that's kind of like and I'm not Latin, so I don't want to speak for you,
No,
but
no, no. But from the stories that I told you, you know already my experience. But yes,
yeah.
we Brazilians, we love to be around people all the time. We love to party. We love to hang out with our friends on the weekends. And we
Hmm.
also like to talk about other people. It's part of our culture, it's part of us.
Yeah, no, for sure. And it's interesting because we do that here in America and my family too. We love to talk about friends and family. The issue is as I got older, our friends and family, or our family stayed the same, but the friends that my mom knew who I was hanging
Yes.
out with changed. And so I wasn't really able to have that dialogue. So I wasn't so concerned as I got older that people would tell my mom things that they see me doing out and about. Was that a concern
Wow.
for you being in your
Yes.
hometown?
Actually, it happened a few times.
Really?
My sister heard something that I was doing with somebody and she told my parents, and then my parents found out through other people that I was doing something that I was not supposed. There were some instances of my life that my parents found out something that I did they were not supposed to.
Right.
But it's part of living in a small town. Another, I think, similarity that we have is that both of our hometowns are located in a very specific place of the country. For
Yeah.
example, Brazil, we have the southeast, and where I'm from, it's considered to be country, kind
Ah,
of like the South
yeah.
in America. So we're considered to have an accent. We're considered to speak country and to
Yes.
listen to country songs. So here, living in Jacksonville, I feel very much at home
Right.
because it's very much like the experience I had at home.
Yeah, it's interesting when you mentioned that you were kind of aware that things could get to your parents pretty quickly. You have two siblings, so
Yes.
obviously that heightens the ante, right? People are going to
Yes.
be talking to them. They have even more friends who see you out and about.
Yes.
I was an only child, so that really lowered my risk that my parents were going to find out I was doing something wrong.
Lucky.
But being queer, of course, that increases our concern
The
that things are going to get
risks.
out.
Yes. You cannot flirt with any guy. You
Right.
cannot do anything.
Stare too
Yes.
long or appear too feminine to people around you, probably more so for you, but for me, I like I said, after I kind of was in the middle school kind of age range, my parents knew very little about who I was hanging out with,
Wow.
which it just only child, kind of spreading my wings a little bit, felt normal. So I was able to kind of not worry so much that
Yeah.
things would get back to me. Again, there's no social media,
Ah.
no one was taking pictures, no one had their phone out and things like that. So I kind of felt like I was indestructible, so to speak, middle and early high school years,
You
which
could pre
definitely relayed into my activities.
you could pretend that you were a different person. They would
Yeah.
never know your name.
I could be anyone I wanted. And again, that's, I guess, being feeling like I grew up in a small town
Yes.
part of a big city. They were like little microcosms
Uh-huh.
of the city that I could kind
Yes.
of escape to, and my parents would kind of be still in their bubble, insulated. It's so interesting too that you refer to Jacksonville as the country. I definitely think of it as the country. My parents have a southern accent. They're both from North Georgia and more North and South Georgia. So definitely southern living here. But when we go places like in South Florida,
Yes.
or even like New York or LA, they're like, "Where are you from? I can't really place your accent to
Yes.
both of us."
Yes.
They're like, "Are you Southern?" Because I hear like a twang in my voice,
Yes.
and to you, obviously, you have
Brazilian
a
accent.
slight Brazilian accent.
Slight
But
Brazilian
it's funny that we
accent.
both get the same question.
Yes. Do you think you have an accent?
So it depends on who I'm around. So if I'm in
Mm,
my hometown, if I'm in South Georgia,
yes.
like on at a family retreat, or if we go to some sort of family reunion, which I haven't gone to in decades, it comes out. I don't know if you've heard
Uh,
me talk on the phone with my mom or my mom's
yes.
around, the
You're a different
y'alls.
person.
Just I like to take on that accent. It's funny too when I meet other people who have accents, or especially if they're Southern, I crank mine up. It's almost like a way of saying, "I see you. I know where
Yes.
you're from. I'm from there
Yes.
too." And so it's not conscious. I just kind of naturally crank it up. Would you say there's a Southern accent in Brazil?
Yes, absolutely. And for those who don't know, I'm from Minas Gerais. It's a big state right next to Rio and São Paulo, and a lot of people don't know about it because
It's the
the
South.
it's the South. Doesn't have any famous beaches. We don't have any
It's the country.
touristy destination there, but it's a big economy in Brazil, and it's a big place for farms
Yeah.
and cows, chicken, eggs. So we have a lot of farmland.
Yeah.
And I'm from a city that is an hour away from the capital of the state,
Wow.
called Sete Lagoas, in English, Seven Lakes. And yes, we do have an accent. And I was very ashamed of my accent when I moved from my hometown to Rio for 2 years. And I remember everywhere I would go, I would say, "Hi, how are you?" They would know at that moment where I was from. "Oh, you're
Right.
from Minas."
Wow.
Yes.
That's
So,
crazy.
yes, it's crazy. I remember I would try to hide my southern
Oh.
accent, like I try to hide my Brazilian accent now,
Mm.
very similarly, because I don't like to have an accent. I don't like to, I don't know, I consider myself shy.
Sure.
So, especially talking with strangers, I don't like when someone have in idea about me.
Right, and they don't even know you.
Exactly.
And there is that still here in the US, obviously, the connotation that if you're from the South or have a Southern accent, you're less intelligent, you're less worldly,
Yes.
you haven't gotten out, you live in
Yes.
a shack somewhere next to
Yes.
a corn mill.
Yes.
To me, it's funny because I didn't live in that lifestyle. Like Jacksonville, very suburban, big city, but surrounded by farmland, surrounded by the South. So I'd go like also to visit the people that lived in South Georgia that my family was related to, and I had friends there over time. And they would, when I would meet new people, they'd be like, "Oh, you must be from New York. You have an accent." And then I'd come back to Jacksonville, and they'd be like, because I'd been in the South, they're like, "Wow, did you pick up a Southern accent?" So it's very interesting how people pick up on that very quickly and start creating stereotypes or ideas in
Yes.
their head of who you are, where you're from, just based on some twang or some sort of change in the way you say words.
Yeah, and because I am already a shy person, I remember moving to a different state. I became even more shy because I couldn't open my mouth. Because if I open my mouth, they would know exactly where I was from. So I
You know,
decided to be quiet for a little while. And then I think I don't have an accent anymore. But like you said, if I talk with my mom or family back home, I
I
still have a little bit of that accent.
Sure. I mean, I don't get to appreciate as much, which I really
Yes.
am sad about. We've talked about language a lot. I'm still trying to learn Portuguese. It's going to be a long journey for me. But I hope one day I can kind of start appreciating those things because they are very unique to you, unique to where you're from. And so it would be great for me to be able to appreciate that. Well, what kind of came to my mind when you were talking about being conscious of your voice, immediately I started to think in my specific hometown and where I grew up being conservative. I went to a Christian school. I became very aware of my voice, not necessarily my accent, but the
Right.
femininity of my
Yes.
voice, especially like in middle school and early
Yes.
high school. And so I became quite more shy, at least in my immediate, surroundings and environment around that time as well. It's so interesting how it's important to us how people perceive the way we
Yes,
talk.
yes, absolutely. And I had a very similar story. I also went to a Christian school, Catholic in Brazil, and for the same reasons, I had a feminine voice,
Mhm.
and people will comment sometimes, and I didn't like it. I thought that was something for me to be ashamed of.
Right.
So I tried to change my voice.
Yep.
And I did a little bit
Mhm.
because I didn't want to be the femme guy, the femme boy at class.
It's interesting too. I grew up with a very tight-knit friend group because we all lived on the same street. And so I always hung out with them from like early as I can remember, maybe 4 or 5 years old until we moved when I was around 10 or 12, starting to get into puberty. Life was changing as
Yeah.
my environment was too. And back then I was so bold and vocal. None of my friends never, commented on my voice or that I was feminine or liked feminine things, even though it was obvious to them. I was kind of safe in that area. I was super interested in being some sort of person on television. I would always like grab my mom and say, "Hey,
Wow.
grab the camera. I'm going to do the news today, or I'm going to do the weather." I would love to present in front of people. I love to talk and like to get attention. And I wanted to be in some way in front of an audience. And then around 10 to 12, when I moved into a new neighborhood and also just getting older, it was very quick for me to realize that my self-worth and my self-esteem was not strong enough to
Yes.
get me through it. I stopped immediately around that age group getting in front of people. I never wanted to speak
Yes.
publicly. I remember in this area too, at the time that this was all happening, I would answer the phone sometimes and they'd be like, "Oh, hi, ma'am. Is this the head of the household?" And when you're
Excuse
12 years
me.
old as a boy and this is happening, plus, you're coming into your gayness and you are already sort of shrinking
Yes.
yourself.
Yes.
Oh my God, it was like daggers.
Trauma.
I still remember. It's so funny. It was still such a traumatic thing to where I would not answer the phone. I would avoid
Wow.
answering the phone because I didn't want them
Oh.
to think I was a woman.
So back then you wanted to be an entertainer.
Yes, I remember I have these few vivid memories where I would do like there'd be family birthdays, something like that, and I would make the entire family like sit to the side and I would put on either some sort of show for them. I would do the I love to do the weather.
There's a tape somewhere
Yeah,
with you doing
I
this.
know I need to find it. That would
Yeah.
be hilarious.
Well, look at you now. You're on TV.
I'm on TV, I'm famous.
You're on YouTube.
But it is funny how this is something I've always wanted to do. I think it also tied into being a physician. There's this level of presentation that we do
Yes.
in the career, whether you're presenting to one patient or to 100,
Yeah.
patients or people in a room. And I love to educate, I love to learn, and so it all kind of tied in together. I think going back to that old, 10-year-old who wanted to be a weatherman, there was all of that still right here, right? Want to be in some way able to communicate with a large group of people, educate them in some capacity, get to learn throughout the process. I mean, obviously, you don't become a weatherman by like coloring in a coloring book. So all those things, it's funny because that person is still here. I just
Yes.
shoved them down and
Yes.
now get to express them on YouTube with y'all, or vocally on Spotify or Apple, wherever you're listening to this.
I experienced the same thing. Changed my voice around 13,
Hmm.
14. Changed my ways, changed how I behave myself. And I actually never came out to my friends and family back in Brazil. Not,
Really? Right.
yes, not while I was living there. I came out basically on social media
Hmm.
because just open my Instagram, you see.
Just make it easy.
Yeah. So I never came out to my family in Brazil, specifically
Yeah.
my cousins, my aunts, my uncles. Never told them, "Hey, I'm gay." No, because I was so afraid of people judging me. I was
Right.
so afraid of people talking things about me. I was always a very private person. So it was not until I moved to the US that I was like, you know what? Screw it. I'm just going to start a new life. I'm just going to be myself.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to do whatever makes me happy.
So would you say you never really had a out and open experience back in your hometown? You were always sort of, because I know you mentioned in the past you dated someone
Yes.
even when you were living in your hometown, but you would
Yes.
always leave. You would try to get
Yes.
out of your
Yes.
hometown.
And even for my friends, I always would tell them that it was my cousin. Never told them it was my
Right.
boyfriend.
Right.
So I had a 3 year long relationship with someone who nobody ever met him as my boyfriend.
Wow.
Not even my family, not even my sisters
Yeah.
or my mom for a while and my dad.
Yeah.
And it's funny because when I go back to my hometown, obviously different time now,
Mm-hmm.
8, 9 years later, um, they obviously know who I am now. They have a better idea after all this time
Sure.
that, I'm gay and I'm happy.
Yes.
There was this time my aunt, we were talking, and then you came to the
Conversation.
conversation, and I was talking to two aunts of mine, and one of them said, "What? You were gay? You're dating a guy?" I said, "You don't know." Isn't that clear?
Right. Yeah. I've had those experiences too. It's interesting because even though I was kind of in this bubble in my hometown and certainly didn't want people in my family's bubble to know what I was
Yes.
doing, because most of my family that lives in Jacksonville was far away from me on the north side. Like I mentioned, I go see my grandma, and that was a whole thing. And then my mom and my stepdad were living in this sort of bubble. There's so many other
Yeah.
microclimates of Jacksonville that I was able to kind of sneak away to and express my queerness and express my gayness. I remember at 15 or 16 years old, I'd be able to hang out with friends, what we call Five Points or Riverside, which is kind
Ah,
of like the more artsy area. And it felt like I was in a completely different city. It's still
wow.
30 minutes from my house, but I never saw people my parents knew, never saw people from my school. This was like the liberal arts kind of area, the gay area. And so it was really fortunate for me because I was still able to have a very gay experience in Jacksonville. That being said, at the time, I didn't know if we had like a gay pride. I
Right.
didn't know about, gay art like drag. That was not something that I was aware of at the time. And any type of, way that Jacksonville may have been fostering gayness, other than the artsy scene in that area and the people I met, I felt like Jacksonville was really not, pro gay,
Yeah.
pro liberal, pro art, pro expression of who you are, just because of my own, sort of sheltered and ignorant experience. Looking back, though, there may have been all those things going on. I have no idea, but I always just wanted to get out of Jacksonville. I did not want to be here. I wanted to be in a city where I could see a lot more young gay
Yes.
people as well. In that area, I was 15, 16. The people that I would, kind of see living their gay lives were in their mid 20s,
Yeah.
early 20s. It felt like they were older than me and I didn't really relate to them. But then I had this idea that LA and Miami and New York were the places that you'd see young gay people thriving,
Everywhere.
and I needed to get there as soon as possible. So I always just wanted to get out. Did you feel like that too, growing up where you're like ready to leave?
Yes, absolutely. Growing up, I knew exactly that that was not the place that I wanted to spend my life,
Yeah.
the rest of my life. So I always knew that I was either going to move to the capital of my state
Yeah.
or Rio or a bigger city, obviously a more liberal, a
Right.
place where I could find other queer people and I
Hmm.
could find a partner.
Yeah.
So I always knew, I always had that in my mind. I don't want to live here. I
Yeah.
know this is just temporary. I know I'm going to be happy here until I'm 18, 19, but after that, I'm going to be
Yeah.
away from, I mean, my family's there. We get to visit them every year or 2 years
Right.
and love to visit, but it's not a place that I'll feel happy.
Yeah.
I'll be happy living there because it's still conservative. They definitely don't have drag shows. They definitely don't have gay bars.
And so, do you know if they have a gay pride in Sancho Lagoas?
Oh, first and foremost, say it
I
again.
said it. Sancho Lagoas.
Sete
Sancho
Lagoas.
Lagoas.
What about the state I'm from?
Minas Gerais.
Minas Gerais. Good job.
I'm getting there. See, my Portuguese is it's
Getting
doing
sharp.
something.
Yes.
So there's no pride there, or there is, you're not
Not to
sure.
my
Yeah.
knowledge. I don't think so. There is a gay pride in Belo, the capital of my state, but not in my hometown. I believe so.
Yeah.
But I know there are gay bars.
Oh,
I know
that's
they're
cool.
like gay friendly bars.
Sure.
I don't know if they're like big. It's not like,
Yeah.
but there's progress. There is a gay population in my hometown bigger than there was
Sure.
10,
And that's
15 years ago.
what's happening here too.
Yeah.
You know, I think over the past 5 years, Jacksonville has really grown and become more progressive. We see a lot of gay people. It's so interesting too. We live now in an area that I never have been to. So this neighborhood we live in, growing up, literally, my mom actually found me our house here. And I was like, hey, it's a great deal. This was 2017 or 18. And I was like, I've never even been to that area. She's like, it's got everything you need. It's got a Target. It's got a Publix. It's got
It's convenient.
Firehouse, Starbucks. Yeah, everything we literally don't leave. And then it's right by the highway system. So we
Yes.
never even go near the Jacksonville I grew up
Yes.
in. So in some ways, I feel like even though we live in my hometown,
Yes.
we are having a completely new experience.
You know what blows my mind is the fact that we live here for years now and we go to places, we go to restaurants, we go to the gym, we go everywhere, and we never see someone from your past.
I never run into people I know.
Ever.
It's so funny. I see more people when we go to bigger cities
Yeah.
or random places, and we'll
Yeah.
run into people that don't even live there. But I never see people. The only people that I see is I have one friend from high school. I went to a public high school for junior year. I decided I wanted to try what that was like. My mom said, fine, but you're coming back for senior year here. So I went and met a bunch of people, skipped school a lot. It was not a good place for me, which is why my mom put me back in private school after. And my friend Alicia, she lives right up the road from us, and we
Yes.
had no idea. It's actually random. She texted me after were like moving in and was like, hey, where do you live now? And I said where I live. She's like, I live 6 minutes from your house
Oh, wow.
walking, which is crazy.
Coincidence.
We never see her because she's got 2 children and we're all busy. But
Shout out to Alicia.
we love you.
Dear friend. We love Alicia.
So we have one friend in this
Yes.
neighborhood.
She is great, and I'm
Yeah.
so glad that I got to meet her because she's incredible. I remember for my birthday a few years ago, she made this huge watermelon
She
cake.
did. It's funny too because for her to see her and to know she's nearby is like a reminder that I'm in my hometown, which is why I
Yes.
wanted to bring her up because I have so many fond memories of exploring Jacksonville. You know, we went to the same undergrad college as well. She's like my hometown hero, like a piece of my heart always. So for me, it's like our relationship is like a piece of Jacksonville as well. So it's really cool to see her right down the road, even though we
Yeah.
don't get to see her as often, but that's being an adult. So
Well, in contrast, if we go to my hometown, if we go to the gym, we're gonna see literally every single person.
You
We're gonna
know?
we're gonna see people from my high school, people that I met 10 years ago, people that are friends with my parents.
What?
Everywhere you go, you just gonna know somebody.
So
You're gonna
hold
go
on.
out. Yes.
If I had known this, I would have literally planned for us to go there ASAP. I would love to see people you went to high school with.
Oh
and
my
all of
God.
that.
Yes, just go to my hometown. You're gonna see them on the street. You're just gonna see it because I mean, okay. You're not gonna see everyone. Some
Sure.
people left the city.
Sure.
A lot of people left.
Yeah.
But you're gonna see them because they still have family there. So if it's the holidays, you're gonna see everywhere's in town. You know what I mean? So they're still there. They still live there. So
You know, time is not frozen. It's just kind of locked in a little
yeah.
bit more securely in Sancho Lagoas. I think it is here
Oh.
too, except for it's funny, the majority of my friends who I grew up with too, we've all kind of moved apart, especially the
Yes.
ones I was really close to. I tried to relive some of my old school days, but it's a different experience. Like we drive by the houses that I grew up
Yes.
in, you can kind of see they've really evolved and changed in some good ways, some bad ways. But I do kind of wish that I could have that experience where I go back to my hometown and, can kind of just reopen the door to a
Yes.
frozen, time warp and see
Well,
everyone I knew.
I'll take you to my hometown and you can experience that with me
I
together.
love this idea. This would be so much fun. And I get to see another side of you, kind of where you've come from. And maybe some way we can try to pick up and dig up some of my old friends from the past. And I mean, a lot, what I love about the majority of my friendships, even the people I don't talk to regularly, when I do, it's like we saw each other yesterday. I don't know why that is. I've always picked people that I feel
Yeah.
like, or we've picked each other to be close, knowing that life is going to take us different places. And when we do meet again, it's like pick up where you left off, just keep going forward. And so hopefully we can start working on that too. I think that'd be a great goal to let you see a little of where baby Tyler comes from and who kind of raised him in the process.
And you're gonna get to see where Gabriel came from.
Yeah.
Sete Lagoas, Tyler tá vindo.
Uh-oh. Si se puede.
Well, that's Spanish,
Right.
but that's okay.
Working on it.
Working on it.
But I think when we think of hometowns, everyone is going to have their own perspective and their own unique experience, which is why I really wanted to talk about this today. I really want to be able to reach out to people that listen and who
Yes.
get to watch us and, build our relationships with each other as well and hear where do they come from? Do they have similarities to us? What was their school experience like? Did you ever go to a private school or did you have a religious experience in education? Did you grow up in a micro bubble of your hometown?
Do you still live in your hometown? Are you away from your hometown? Do you go back to your hometown? What's your relationship with your hometown?
Yeah, do you still talk to people that you knew from back then? Are you close to old friends or did you kind of leave them in the past? I think that's a uniquely
Yes.
queer experience as well. A lot of us have to leave our
Yes.
previous lives behind because the people around us just aren't tolerant, which is a horrible
Or even
bare
if you stay,
minimum.
you're just not gonna be happy, right? You're not
Yeah.
gonna be 100% yourself.
Right. Are you happy you left your hometown? Are you happy you're still there? We want to know from you. But thank you so much for taking the time to join us.
Time goes so fast when we talk.
I mean, it's
feel-
Lava Lee. She puts us through the time warp.
She does.
I feel like we just started talking too, but yeah,
That's true.
it goes quick. But that's why I love these. I'm getting to talk to you. But we will be back next week, so I hope you join us. Please leave some comments below if you have additional questions you want us to talk about in this podcast. It's so much fun for us to get to share with you. Please like, subscribe, follow, drop a pin,
Comment.
all those things. We will see you next week.
Thanks
Until
for
then,
watching.
Thank you.
Bye. The most difficult question to answer to me is when someone asks me, where are you from? I don't know if I answer if I'm from Brazil, if I'm from Jacksonville, I just don't have the answer.
I know, and it depends on where we're at too. Like, have we been staying in Maui? Because when we get asked in Maui, they're like, "Where are you from?" And I'm like, "Well, we are here
It
a lot."
depends.